we're going to do today is go through this nifty little guide made by Mind Life, I guess, about 10 ways to meditate. And I really like that you have meditations from all different like cultures and traditions, and a very nice short, I think we'll just read the how to do it section. The background information is also interesting, but not, to keep things concise and focused. So yeah, I invite you guys, if either of you feel open to reading, then we could switch off on reading each one a different meditation. And otherwise, sorry, what, did someone say something? Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. Otherwise, I was gonna, after we read them, if you have any experience or thoughts or ideas or, anything to share about that particular meditation, then we could have a little discussion. And initially I was going to try to go really fast because there's 10 of them, do them in each in like 5 minutes. But I think we should just go at whatever pace we want and just see how far we get. And we could have a part 2 next week. Hey, Jody, how you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So I was just saying that I'm a little low energy today because I wasn't feeling well this morning. So if any of you would feel called to share the burden of reading, we can each take turns reading a section of these. And there's 10 of these, and it's from a guide made by this website. So credit to them. But I thought it was really nice. And I haven't read through all of them. So we'll see how far we get today.
Hey, good.
Cool. And then if there's nothing, do you guys have any questions or anything getting started before we get started? All right, cool. Then we'll jump into it. All right, so Zazen meditation is the first one. And it says, Zen meditation is a great start for beginners. Usually it's practiced on the floor using a cushion and a mat, with the user sitting cross-legged. Traditionally, this technique is done in half lotus or lotus position. Now you just have to worry about sitting comfortably throughout the exercise. The most important part of Zen meditation is keeping your back aligned. Your eyes must be lowered while your head is facing toward the ground. As you pay attention to the sound of your breath, Zen meditation can be done in 2 different ways. Focus on the breath, focusing all your attention on the breath by letting it flow in and out of your nose. This can be aided by counting the number of breaths in your mind. Each time you begin to inhale, count by 1, starting with the number 10 and moving backwards until you reach 1. After you arrived at 1, bring your attention up to 10 and continue from there. Or 2, shikantaza, sitting. In this form, you don't have to focus on any specific object for meditation. Instead, practitioners have to remain present, be aware, and observe everything that comes past them. So if any of you guys, any of you guys familiar with this meditation or practiced it before?
Well, I'm so new. I assumed I did Zen, but then as I was reading through the book, I realized that I think I do mindfulness meditation. So
okay, yeah.
And so
sorry, I'm not hearing you so well. Matt, I was going to say, if you don't mind muting, maybe that's what it was. Could you say that again, Jody?
I think that what I'm most familiar with is mindfulness meditation.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
I heard that part, sorry. I thought you said something afterwards. I feel like there's a lot of overlap with meditation, and I guess in my understanding, there are 2 basic types, which are passive and dynamic. Or they can be called different things, but I've heard it categorized like this. Passive meditation, where you're basically trying to clear your mind and not have any thoughts, and kind of, I feel like there can be a lot of different benefits, but I always think of I think it has something to do with realigning or something to do with your nervous system. That's the impression that I get, and also having control over your mind to be able to clear it so that you're not plagued by the monkey mind or these constant thoughts that tend to be the way that a lot of us work in our minds. And then dynamic meditation is where you use your mind to achieve specific goals. So you're actually actively visualizing something or you know, like focusing on points of your body, perhaps trying to heal. So there's a lot of different ways you can use your mind, I guess, in the metaphysical sense of it, or just maybe in the physical sense too. But the idea is like you're using your mind to achieve something, or like it's more dynamic, I guess. So mindfulness and I feel like Zazen are very similar because they're both passive in that it's just about being aware and in that moment. And I think that like they use different tools. So they had the counting in this one, which I hadn't. So I've practiced Zazen when I first started getting into martial arts. I was fortunate enough to end up at a pretty authentic karate dojo, and they practiced 10 minutes of Zazen meditation at the beginning and end of each session. And like they never gave any instruction. I feel like you saw everyone how they sat, but they never once talked about what you're supposed to be doing or not doing or anything like that. And I feel like that's very like in line with the Zen. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. Sorry, I should have shared my screen while I was reading. Remind me to do that next time. But that's very in line with the Zen mindset of like you're just being aware and there's no like right or wrong answer. The point is just to be present to whatever is at that time. And I feel like stillness is a natural byproduct of that somehow, but sometimes it takes a little time. And yeah, so she would, the sensei would have a little bell and they'd ring it. And something about the bell, it's like, you know, it has that like resonance. Something about that does seem to really just chill you out. I've been meaning to go and buy one, but I don't know where to start. So I haven't done that yet, probably Amazon. But yeah, so I remember she would do that at the beginning and end. Oh, sorry, what's that?
Podcast about those healing bells the other day.
Oh, is that right? I should look that up. Healing bells. That's what they'd be called.
Is a different tone that aligns to each chakra. So you want to make the right bell, because I guess there's 10 of them.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm not. Well, the one she had was just a little like brass. Oh no, but it had a little stick. It was a little brass bell, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was attuned to a certain something. But I wonder what.
Yeah, there's more to them. They're really powerful.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if I could go by the size because I remember the size, but I don't know. I could maybe get in touch with my old sensei. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
So,
even the color of the bell, even the color of it is aligned with the chakra.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thank you for sharing that. All right, cool. So wait, did anyone else have any, oh, and I'll share the screen so you guys can see this in case you hadn't seen this, but does anyone else have any thoughts or questions about Zazen before we move to the next one? How do I do this? Oh, here it is. There it is. Boom. And then, oh, I can just share the thing. I think that'll be best. All right, cool. So you guys can see it now?
Good. Now I don't have to flip back and forth.
Yeah, sorry about that. So the Zen was the first one we did, and I just read this how to do it section. So next one, which I hadn't heard of before, but I did read it and use the concept in it, and I found it, oh, this is a neat little graphic. I found the concept very useful as kind of almost an extension of Zazen or the Zen meditation, and this is called Vipassana. So does anyone feel called to read this one or part of it? No.
I can read it if no one else wants to.
All right, Matt, if you don't mind, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. I hope I don't mispronounce anything. So I think there's a couple esoteric words here.
Yeah, we'll be forgiving.
In general, you want to start with the mindfulness of your breath in the early stages. This helps stabilize your mind and help achieve and access concentration. Think of it as focused attention meditation. Then move on to developing a clear insight of the mental phenomenon and bodily sensations, observing them during each moment and not attaching to any of them. The first aspect is to develop your concentration through the samatha practice. This is usually done through your breathing awareness. Focus your attention on your breath from moment to moment. Take note of the subtle sensations of movement, such as your abdomen rising and falling. As you start to focus on your breath, you'll start to notice other sensations and perceptions, feelings in your body, sounds, emotions, etc. I think this should be notice.
Yeah.
as they emerge in your field of awareness and then continue to your normal rate of breathing. The object that's the main focus of this exercise is the primary object. And then there is a secondary object, is anything that rises from your field of perception. This can either be related to your five senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, etc., or through your mind, feeling, memory, thought, etc. However, if a secondary object gets your attention, then focus on the object for a moment or two. Give it a mental note like hearing, thinking, memory, desiring. This practice is called noting, I think is what that's supposed to mean. Read.
Maybe it's like a really deep, it's, yeah, I think you're right.
I noticed there were a few typos. I think that should be noting.
Yeah.
And then because it says a mental note, briefly explains the second object, but not in detail. When you hear a sound during meditation, label it as hearing instead of motorcycle or dog. If an unpleasant situation occurs, then note it as feeling or pain instead of my back pain, and then return to the primary object. After you've gained the access concentration, your attention is then turned to the main object, which is usually bodily sensations or thought. You observe the object without attachment, letting sensations and thoughts pass away on its own accord. With mental labeling, you can keep yourself from being carried away by your thoughts. As a result, you'll get a clear sensing that your observed phenomenon is noted by three marks of existence: the emptiness of self, anatta, impermanence, anakka, and unsatisfactoriness, dukkha. As a result, a sense of inner freedom, equanimity, and peace is developed in relation to these inputs.
It really went all out on that last paragraph. I feel like that's like, the rest was very like step by step, and the last one is like, you will now understand that this is like these super deep concepts. Okay.
Yeah, there's a few esoteric terms in there that might need to be explained.
I mean, I'll say the main thing that I got from this was this part about having like just noting. That noting technique was very useful in not dwelling on the thought or giving like attachments or extra emotions to it for me, and just saying it's like feeling or hearing, and so that's the one thing that I was mentioning before. But yeah, have any of you guys ever practiced this or something similar?
Oh, I'm ready to try.
Yeah, this one sounds very interesting and like focused and step by step. It's almost very like academic how they wrote this guy out. Yeah. So this one I thought was very
I have a really hard time emptying my mind. So, the label, counting, that's all good.
Yeah. I feel like that's the best way to do it almost, because if you don't, it's almost like like the middleman between not thinking and thinking. It's still a thought saying hearing or thinking or memory, but it's not like an in-depth thought that you can get lost in and it takes over your whole thinking process. It's almost, you're like thinking, and then you're like, there's like a moment of silence right after you label that. And it's like, okay, can we stretch that moment of silence out longer before another thought pops in? And then you label it, and then it's like quiet for. That's been my experience at least. So, and then I feel like the other thing that I used for the clearing your mind, which I think is interesting, I'm not sure if I heard this somewhere or came up with it or I mean, like had this insight, but like if you ever like at night, if you're sleeping and it's all quiet and then you hear like all of a sudden you just like, you're just listening to see like what's the next sound. And I feel like, at least for me, my mind is blank in that moment. Somehow it just goes like, I don't know. It's like I'm waiting, but there's no thinking, because even my thoughts would make a sound, and that would like I have to hear it. And I also feel like it might go kick into a deeper part of the mind that's instinctual, that's like fight or flight. And so there's no prefrontal cortex going crazy. It's like, shut up, we got to survive. Then you can think all you want. And it's like, so that's another little trick I use to try to like empty my mind or find that, because I feel like once you find the emptiness, then it's easier to try to get back to it. But
Right.
yeah.
I actually just read something yesterday about Buddhist monks when they're being taught and they're in meditation, that the teacher will walk around with a stick and hit
I knew that
people
was
randomly.
gonna. For some reason, I knew you were gonna say
It's to
that.
teach them to be constantly on guard, to keep their thoughts clear. And so if they were paying attention, then they would be able to sense the stick coming from behind them and move quickly out of the way.
Oh, that's interesting. And it is like in a like a more instinctual reflexive state too, to be in that state of awareness.
Yeah.
That like, yeah, that's really, all right, that's cool. Because I think I might have heard that something about that before, because that immediately popped into my mind, but I never made that connection of the reason why, to keep them aware and focused.
Yeah, I'm currently reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Oh yeah.
That's where I read it yesterday.
I was like, I thought this was this other book, but no, I listened to that on audiobook a long time ago, and that really influenced me a lot at the time. It was very just what I needed to hear. And I don't is his thing mindfulness meditation? Do you remember what kind?
He's well, this book is about being present in the moment.
Yeah.
And to be very focused in the current moment, and not in the past, not in the future.
Okay. I feel like that would, if you have to label it, of course, we don't have to label everything, but yeah, no, that's true. That's a great way to summarize it. All right. Wow. Do you have any other thoughts or insights on that, or anything you wanted to share? Anybody? All right. Just wanted to make sure. So yeah, would anyone like to read this one? It's pretty short, not too intimidating. No? All right. I'll take it. All right. So, like most meditations, mantra meditation starts with your back aligned while you're in the sitting position. I just want to point out that I feel like one of the things about meditation is awareness creates, you fix problems and things just by being aware of them. Every time I read about sitting up straight, I'm immediately fixing my posture. So that's a interesting little side thought I'm having. All right. You then repeat the mantra with your mind silently and repeatedly throughout the whole session. Sometimes it's coupled with coordinating your breath or being aware of it. In some exercises, the mantra is whispered very lightly. Here are the most common mantras that are used in Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Om, Om Mani Padme Hum, Yam, Om Nama Shivaya, Ham. I'm guessing they go Om and Yam, but I don't know. As you continue on with this exercise, you'll realize that the mantra continues on its own, like the humming of your mind. Oh, okay. Or your mantra can disappear and you'll be in a state of deep mental peace. Cool. So anyone?
Insight Timer has a meditation that has a list of sounds, and then you start it out, and then you're supposed to repeat them in your mind for 5 minutes, and then he comes back in. So I guess I have done this one before.
Okay. Did you have any particular experience, compared to your mindfulness or any other?
3 sounds, and I would have a very hard time remembering.
Oh, it was like a long mantra. It wasn't just Om.
It was 7, and then he had all the 7 colors of the chakra, and then every time I would.
Okay.
So to make the sound and imagine the color, and it was a little overwhelming.
Okay, so but you found that it was too kind of difficult to remember the stuff, so maybe you were more. Is that what you're saying? You're having.
Wanted to be perfect. I don't know.
Okay. That's the thing about, I feel like one thing I've heard is that if you're not enjoying meditation, you're doing it wrong. And that's a very difficult concept, I feel like, but I try to remember it, because it's yeah, the whole trying aspect is almost, maybe meditation is getting in touch with the opposite of our like standard state of being, like our active mind. So all the things that we do in normal times, like have a purpose for everything and be efficient and do things correctly and, you know, like not waste time. Like all that is contrary to meditation, because when I go to meditate, I feel like I'm wasting time unless I'm like doing it like some kind of way, you know, or something. I don't know. There's a part of me that I'm like, I'm just sitting here. It's like, if I'm gonna waste time, you know, I can do it watching TV. But yeah, so I think that's an interesting point you brought up about, like, you know, you didn't probably get what you were supposed to out of the meditation because you were stuck in a frame of mind that's inherently non-meditative, I suppose, maybe.
I was judging myself.
There you go. Yeah, that's another thing we're very commonly doing with our everyday minds.
Yes, said to me, if you get 1 second of mindfulness out of your meditation, you've been successful.
Okay.
I heard that, like I don't get much of an empty space.
Wait, sorry, can you say that last thing again?
I don't beat myself up so much ever since I heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that much of an empty space in my head. I know if I get at least 1 second of empty space in my meditation, then that's successful.
All right. Yeah, I dig that a lot. That does sound nice. And I think just kind of like sitting around doing nothing can be a meditation, as long as you're not racking your mind. I've started to accept that. So I'm like, well, if I'm enjoying myself, I'm just sitting outside, like just looking at the plants and the trees, observing them, like chilling, like not in a particular posture or anything. And I don't know. I think that's okay, but I don't know.
Can I say something about the mantra meditation?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'd love for you to.
You know, that was the first sort of introduction to the West of meditation, was to use a mantra. Because going back to the 60s, which is more my era, you know, the Beatles brought the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi over. And his thing was mantra meditation. And they had it all, a huge, huge organization. And everyone used to spend their weekends meditating, or they used to go to these workshops and they would pay money, and every person would get their own special mantra. And that was how they introduced a lot of meditation on a mass scale at that time to the West. So everyone had their own sort of like personalized little mantra. And some people said, well, this is a very westernized kind of approach to this whole thing, mantra of meditation. But, you know, that was a thing when I was first, you know, looking into all of this years ago, was, you know, you had entire, you know, swaths of people. And that was the thing, was everyone would get together on weekends and do all these, you know, like full day meditations, you know, for 8 hours.
I mean, and, okay, wait, so how you've done these 8-hour meditations?
Then I later on said to myself, I couldn't afford to go to any of these workshops. So I went to the public library and got out a book. And read up on it and said, well, it's really just a matter of sitting down and doing it.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting down and just choosing, like, you know, there are any number of mantras you can use, whether it's Om Mani Padme Hum or peace or whatever. And I just sat down and started doing it. And, you know, after 6 months, I didn't feel like I needed a mantra, you know. And, you know, it was really
what was your experience with the mantra, and what made you feel like you didn't need it anymore? I'm curious what the...
Well, because the more I just sat and did it, the more I thought it was just a matter of, you know, watching your breath going in and out and clearing your mind. And that was it, and being still. And even though meditation, you say, well, it's very passive, it really isn't. In one sense, it is emphasizing the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so that's why sometimes they would say, try to do meditation before you eat in the morning, because you're emphasizing if you eat, the sympathetic nervous system. But anyway, in terms of, you know, meditating, it just seemed to me that, you know, it was just simpler to sit down and you become more aware of the active part of it, which is the energy starts to draw up the spine more and more that you do it. That's the whole, that's at least one concept from the maybe more from the Hindu tradition, that it draws the Kundalini up the spine, because in regular life, that energy is getting forced out all the time, you see. But in meditation, you're drawing it up and up and up the spine. And the yogis, you know, if you've ever seen the guys over in India and the Ganges River, you know, they are drawing that energy straight up the spine, higher and higher. So meditation on one hand is passive, but on the other hand, you become much more aware, besides clearing your mind and all the garbage that's in there, of this energy coming up the spine and higher through the chakras. So that's my take on this.
Well, it's really interesting that you brought up the thing about the Beatles. And is this the guy, that you mentioned?
The Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Yeah.
He used to get entire football stadiums of people.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of like, what is the word? Had like a foresight, because the next one is Transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
And apparently, I heard the weird story that I heard about the Beatles is that, so in Transcendental meditation, I looked into it a little bit, and you have to pay some money, and everyone gets their own mantra. And you're supposed to
that was a TM corporation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is now anyway. So I don't know how it started.
But it was based on the mantra. Yeah.
Okay. But then, so I heard that a story, I forget, it was like a podcast or something, about the Beatles when they all had their own mantras and stuff, and they're all going to get together to tell each other. And then when it came time to do it, they all got like nervous and didn't want to, and were like, you know, like sketched out to share their secret mantras. So, and it's interesting because I couldn't find too much information about Transcendental meditation. I thought, oh, someone will do a video on it about on YouTube who's learned it and just put it, you know, or like just, you know, spilling the beans. But I didn't really find readily that information. So a little bit mysterious, but
yeah, I actually, it is kind of mysterious. I actually met someone a couple of years ago who taught it.
Okay.
And I was curious about it, so I paid for it, and I got the mantra. I don't remember what it was.
Well, you don't remember what it was, dude. You can't just forget it.
I didn't have any.
Can you tell me if it was like a weird sound, or if it was like an actual phrase, or like a word you knew, like, or is it like another language?
It was either a Hindu word. I think it was a Hindu word.
Okay. So,
but I didn't have any. It didn't do anything for me.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, I felt like I just got ripped off.
Very interesting. The secret.
I guess I saved my.
What was that?
I think I saved my money because there were so many people who would join up with TM, and I'm like, I'm not paying $75 because that was years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I library and thought I'll read up on it and teach myself. You know. So.
That seems reasonable. It's interesting to hear that you had that experience and to hear firsthand that it was more bells and whistles than
and you can find the mantras online. I remember researching it, and
you were able to find them
afterwards, and I looked it up, and I found a list of the mantras online, and they just kind of pick them based on.
Okay. I got the impression that everyone had a unique mantra that was only for them, and like
no, there's like a couple dozen or something.
Boom.
And they just picked one from that based on your birth date and maybe something else.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was what it was. I thought there was more to it. Yeah. Because it's so mysterious. So I signed up for it.
That's the impression they want you to have, apparently.
Yeah, they don't want you to know that's all you're getting out of it is just something you can look up online.
Myth busted. And that makes sense why I couldn't find any in-depth like explanations or tutorials, because I guess there is no real in-depth like thing to it. It's just like anything else, I guess.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's just it's just the I guess the Zen meditation, that other mantra meditation, the Om. But instead of the Om, it's your personal mantra.
Okay. Well, would you like to do the honors of reading it and calling BS on the parts that you you personally feel opposed to?
Yeah, I remember when I was reading this, when I was getting a little enraged. Remember,
really?
I'd forgotten about it. So this reminded me of it.
I hope this isn't too traumatic an experience for you, bro.
No, sorry. Okay, Transcendental Meditation was founded by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in 1955 in the West and in India. This is a widely practiced meditation with about 5 million practitioners internationally. Transcendental meditation is not easily taught. The only way to learn this technique is to be conned by someone through paying to learn from a licensed instructor. However, they do provide good support for their classes, though. In general, transcendental meditation involves using a mantra. It's practiced around 15 to 20 minutes a day while the user sits with their eye closed. The mantra, their third eye closed.
Yeah, I guess so.
The mantra
These aren't typos. They're just way deeper than we can. They're on another level.
Yeah. The mantra isn't unique and is sent to the practitioner based on their age and gender. Most transcendental meditation practices are used as tantric means of popular Hindu deities.
Okay. Interesting. So anything to add after you read that? Or
no, it's
no?
Yeah.
Lee, I guess you already shared your experiences on this. Jody, you're not one of these. You're like, she's sitting there like, I'm a transcendental meditation teacher, like feeling all awkward.
Sorry, I hope not.
But this morning, Reverend Michael at Agape said that he's calling the third eye now the first eye.
Oh, I kind of like that. Mind blown.
Yeah, because the third eye should not be, secondary. It should be.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Very interesting. I like that. Thank you for that nugget. I'm gonna remember that. Oh, what? Your third eye is. Yo, your first eye is on fire. Hold on. Can I edit this?
So I'm reading, huh?
Oh no, I should have opened this in Acrobat. I would be able to. All right, next time. I'll edit that right out. All right, first eye meditation. Wow, and this one's super short.
In Dharmic spiritual traditions, the first eye refers to the chakra or anja, the brow. Third eye is a symbol for the gate that leads you to higher states and realms of higher consciousness. To successfully see your first eye during meditation, you have to start by cultivating silence in your mind, whether it's through sitting down or being absorbed in your favorite sport or creative activity. Because meditation elevates your senses into higher levels, some people call it the space between your psychic abilities. To fully listen to the information and messages that are from your third eye, you have to be ready to perceive its whisper of wisdom. If your mind is too noisy or busy, you might not see the message.
Cool. What else do you know about the first eye, Jody? Do tell.
I don't know.
Are you sworn? You're sworn to secrecy, aren't you? You're one.
Sponge right now, really excited that I have all these people who've been doing this a long time teaching me so much, because I have like 6 months under my belt.
Oh, it sounds like you know a lot of things, or you've learned a lot so far. I'm learning a lot from you. So the feeling's mutual. But I feel like Lee, you're gonna have something to say about the first eye.
Well, I could, that's for sure.
Please give us a little something.
Not so much within the scope of meditation, but my background is more, after I looked into, various things, I became much more aligned with, the Kwajagan or Sufi tradition. But anyway, in terms of the third eye, you have in other traditions, and I specifically will refer to the Sufi tradition, you have this idea that you have higher centers, and they're somewhat similar to chakra centers, but these higher centers are considered organs of a higher body. Now, when it comes to the third eye in the Sufi system, right between the eyes and the forehead there, that is a center which is associated with intuition and also with the color black. So I just thought I would mention that in case it makes any sense. The other centers are also associated with different concepts, in terms of their function, and also with different colors. But for the third eye, it has a lot to do with intuition and the color black. So Don't know if that means anything, but it's just a side sort of information.
Yeah, wait, so these are higher centers? They're called that in the
Yeah,
Sufi-
in the Sufi tradition, they believe you have the a human being has a higher body, but it's not fully developed. It's sort of like a hidden matrix. So their thing for higher transformation is awakening these centers, and supposedly, if that's done in this life, then after you die, your situation is much better because the higher body can survive a lot better. But anyway, there are some similarities between those centers and what you might call the chakra system, and also between the Kabbalah, which also has certain centers to it. So, but I'm mixing traditions here because I'm just reflect on you're asking about the third eye area.
Yeah, just to clarify though, so if I want to look up more about this, I could look up Sufi higher centers in Sufism.
Well,
in
the Sufi tradition, it's known as the Lataif,
well,
which means Lataif. You know Arabic, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, wait, say it again.
Lataif.
Like the sweet one?
Laif.
To me, that's
it means the lights or subtleties.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, but also it's center. Yeah.
I bet the root of the word latif, could mean like.
You'll find it if you have the book The Sufis. It's in there.
Okay, great. All right, I'm not sure if I have that one, but I'll get it right down.
It's in there. Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's also referred to as the pineal gland.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
totally.
I had an interesting experience a couple years ago with I attended a Korean chi energy. I forget what they call themselves, but there was some meditation and chanting involved, and I had I guess it was my third eye. I slowly felt this vibration sensation, and each time I did it, it grew, increased and lasted longer and longer. It was pretty interesting.
Wow! Wait, so you had a sensation in the inside part where your pineal?
No, right here
on the surface.
Yeah, and when a couple times when I attempt to meditate now, currently, I'll get a slight sensation there, but I get distracted easily with thoughts, so it doesn't last very long.
Is it
but if I can maintain it, I get that sensation.
Or tingling? Is it a pulsing, pressure, tingling? I'm curious, how would you describe it roughly?
It's like a soft, vibrating pulse.
Okay. Very interesting. And
I sometimes get it when I'm talking with someone, and I guess it's an intuitive thing. If there's something that's being said that's significant, I sometimes will get it then as well.
So does it have to be something deeply profound, or could it just be something significant to you personally when you get it?
It's something that I've noticed it occurs when it's something that I find is profound.
Profound. Okay. Okay. All right. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
It actually hurts when I focus on my third eye.
It hurts? Mm-hmm. Like a headache hurts, or
painful, and it's less painful than when I first started meditating 6 months ago, but
whoa. That's crazy. I know one thing, I don't know, I'm just going to share this because it popped into my mind when you said that, but they always say that like the fluoride in the water, that's like, apparently I've looked, it's like chemical as a byproduct of like aluminum manufacturing, but they put it in the water because, fluoride for your teeth can be good for the enamel apparently, but you're not supposed to swallow it. And and it's supposed to, like they say, it calcifies or covers your pineal gland. And for you, I don't know why, but when you were saying that, almost for me, the impression I got was like, you're like cleansing it, and it's slowly getting cleaner and cleaner. I got these things off Amazon. There's a 6-stage water filter that like gets everything out that you can just like install under your sink for like $250, $300. And it makes the water really nice and alkalized. And so I'm just throwing that out there because I'm very happy with that purchase. So if anybody else wants to get good water, that like even when I make my oatmeal, it's like smoother now. Than like I could like every my tea tastes like brews and tastes nicer and clean. So
I have
yeah.
a filter, and I actually had to buy a secondary filter to get the fluoride out of the water.
Yeah, see, that's why this thing's like a 6 stage with the I was like, I don't trust these little filters and I don't know what else is in that water. So
Just curious, what brand is it?
uh it was just like the one on Amazon that had a lot of good reviews. If you want, send me an email or something. How do we have our
Oh no, I was just curious because I used to work for a company that makes one. And I was curious if it happens to be that one. They also make a shower filter one, which is
what are they called?
The company's is Omica, OMICA.
All right, that doesn't sound familiar. I thought, but maybe I just don't. You know, it was like a pretty seems kind of generic. I didn't have a lot of brand. Oh, it's iSpring. That's what mine is. Just
Okay.
like, I don't know, but that's cool though. Do you recommend that brand? Like since you've worked with them personally, do you think they're better or more?
I do, and I'm not saying this because I don't work with the company anymore, but I do know it's one of the best in the market because the guy who does all the design and formulating, he
Actually cares.
Yeah, he deeply cares, and he's also
that's the bottom line. It's like.
Yeah, so he's spent years and years and years in developing and finessing the design of the drinking water filter and the shower water filter.
Awesome.
And
so wait, what is the company name again?
Omica, OMICA, Organics, Omica Organics.
Organics.
They have a lot of other supplements, a lot of esoteric supplements.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so in general, like you're the owner and the brand in general is like has good integrity and.
Yeah. The owner of the company is the most honest person I've ever met in my life, and he's highly intuitive as well. So when he's formulating supplements, he's able to synergistically, he knows how the different ingredients interact. So everything the company makes is really very good, the highest level of integrity and quality of products, and everything's organic if it can be organic.
Yeah, of course. But no, man, I'm actually really excited. I have a feeling that that's gonna be a real blessing. It's nice to. One of the things with me and purchasing stuff online and in the world is like, I don't know how to research like what's what. But like when I know like the person, if the person's a good person, then I'm going to say like he did the research for me. So I can just trust that I'm getting, like he did that stuff. So that's great to hear actually. And I feel really good about that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Oh, cool. So any other thoughts about the third eye? This is a deep one. Yeah. All right.
The Tibetan Buddhists and the Rinpoches, who are really very close.
Can you just tell me
the high up lamas, the Rinpoche?
Okay.
They are real wizards, and they have certain practices that are pretty much magical. But when they go to give special blessings, they very often they have very special coins and objects that they use. And I noticed I went to an empowerment ceremony once, it was many years ago. And what they will do, they always touch those objects to the person's third eye area. Mm. And I had one of these special blessings once. And, they would do this. And as soon as they would touch your third eye, at least in my case, it just shot like a lightning bolt, white hot energy straight into my middle of my chest. But they start with the third eye and they do their chanting, and you're standing there in front of them, and they have like a little table, they have all their stuff, and but they make a point of putting that coin that they use straight to your third eye area, and they're able to transfer energy straight into your heart area, which was very interesting. So I just thought I'd note that. So there must be something that
yeah. Where did you have this experience?
It's a doorway or something. I don't know. I just thought I'd mention it.
Where did you have this experience?
Well, I had friends who used to work at the Bodhi tree and who were Tibetan Buddhists.
Is the
And
Bodhi tree a place in like LA, or is it a?
yeah, there was a
Oh,
house.
okay.
And someone called me up and said these really important Rinpoches were coming in. And I says, well, I'm not even Buddhist. But they said, well, come anyway. And so,
I like that, right?
you go to their whole ceremony, and it's like 2 hours of meditating, and they talk through a translator about what this mandala and that mandala means. And it didn't mean very much to me, but in the end, I hadn't been well. And one of them, the translator who was from Holland, said, you should go up and get a special blessing. So there were a couple of us who got special blessings. And I just thought I'd mention that because, those guys, really have a few tricks up their sleeves. And I could just feel this energy, and it was really intense. And then it went away, and I was okay to drive home. But once I got home, boy, it really hit me.
It came back?
Transfer energy, but they use that one spot. I noticed.
Wait, do you mean that when you got home, the energy feeling returned?
Yeah, I was like burning up like a meteor. Yeah.
It's almost like it had like a conscious intent to let you get home safely.
Yeah, they have
That's like the impression that I get.
They have a delayed time. Yeah, they have a delayed timer on it. It's
or maybe they did that on purpose. It's like a mechanism.
Yeah, they do. I think so. Well, they even do that. You can do that supposedly with certain objects where they can become activated. And they have energy up to a certain point, but then they really become activated. It's like a whole higher science, But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that about the third eye.
Yeah, the one thing that made me think of actually is that, so I'm Muslim, so I pray 5 times a day. And when you pray, you go down and bow in the position called sujood, which you've probably seen when the Muslims.
Right.
And you put basically that part of your head, which is your third eye, on the floor. Right. And recently I heard someone saying that would like dissipate the electromagnetic charges that accumulate in your brain area, like in your head throughout the day, like to ground it. And then the other thing they said about sujood, which was interesting, was that it's the only, well, no, maybe not the only, but a position in which your head is lower than your heart, in which extra blood flow would go to your head due to gravity because it's below your heart, or make it easier to pump. So, but I don't know about what the third eye touching the floor, but I have a feeling that has something to do with something.
Touch the earth so that you're connecting to the earth's energy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Although a lot of them use a carpet, so that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
But would that, you think that the actual touching to the ground, like earth, like not even in your home, but like dirt basically on the floor outside, would be different?
Grass and see if it's different.
It's interesting. Okay. All right. The main reason I understand that we use the carpet is so that you don't get because you're walking around on the floor and you don't want to get like your feet fungus on your forehead kind of thing. But it's an interesting point. I'm going to try praying outside without a rug or something and see what my experience is. I'm sure.
Well, there's that whole thing where they have people who live in these high rises, and they have these little units or something that they put inside their apartments, which has to do with dirt. And they're able to stand barefoot on dirt because they feel like living in high rises, that they're losing the electrical charge from the earth. And there's a whole thing, I forgot what it's called, and some people actually wires, I think, from their from the outside into their houses because they feel like the earth has a certain beneficial energy. So I forgot the name of it, but I was reading up on that,
It's called grounding.
Grounding. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, it's grounding. But yeah, thank you. That's very interesting.
I have a book about it. I also have this sheets I bought that I never used that plug into a grounded outlet. So when you're sleeping at night, it grounds the body.
Yeah, that must be it.
Yeah, I've been out on grass for about 20-30 minutes a day now, just trying it. And when they test your blood before and after you've been on the ground, they can see how the viscosity of your blood changes.
Wow. Is it?
You soak up the electrical charge, and we're blocking that with our shoes and with the.
I do walk around barefoot a lot, so hopefully that's helping. I don't prefer shoes if I don't have to wear them.
In the dirt.
No, I definitely walk on dirt all the time. But that's interesting. All right, these are very interesting things to consider. I wonder, I'm trying to figure out, like, I guess I can just test it out myself and see what my personal experience is. Like, what would be the best way to learn or to see what grounding's all about, and if it's something I can incorporate, or if I already am. But I wonder, is that's like I feel like we shouldn't go on to another form of meditation. I don't mind stopping here, but I wanted to mention that grounding is also something they talk about a lot in meditation, right? Or is that just martial arts? Martial arts and meditation have some overlap, but I feel like grounding is something that I hear a lot about in martial arts. Actually, that's where I'm coming from. Have you guys ever heard that in terms of meditation, aside from what we just mentioned?
Well, I think it's two different. There's a spiritual grounding, and then there's electromagnetic grounding with the planet Earth.
Okay.
So I think it's two different terms.
Oh, okay. Do you think that they're related?
I'm sure they are.
Electromagnetically grounded, it would spiritually be, like they're kind of like the two sides of the same coin, or some kind of how connected. That feels like something.
Yeah. Well, everything is apparently connected.
There you go. That's a good answer. On that note, unless anyone else has something they wanted to share or discuss at this point, I'm going to think for next week at the same time. We'll just keep going through the rest of these.